Welcome to the Wheelie Big and Small Devlog, a game created by the Seattle Godot user group, our first game jam actually, and the entry to the Game Maker's Toolkit 2024 jam. Aptly tuned to the theme of built to scale, your player side is tied to your speed, so if you go faster, you make it over large holes of graded bridges or slow down to fit under tunnels and even other cars on the road. In this devlog, we'll cover how we made a fully procedural car generator in Blender, modeled the characters and objects, created the shading art style, and programmed it all together. But first, don't forget to play the game. It's available for free in the browser, or even better, you can download the source code and the assets, which we've decided to release all as CC0. So at the start of the jam, we were tossing around ideas. We eventually settled on the Memphis group design as a cool visual style, full of 80s new wave abstracts and lots of creative potential. Sean kicked it off on the team the first night by modeling a bunch of different assets like trees, signs, squiggles, and squaggles, mostly objects to give to the programmers to play with, but even if in the end they didn't all get integrated, alas, with some severe thunderstorms, the most severe in 5 years actually, causing some power outages and having to tend to some family, modeling time was cut a little bit short and Sean had to move on to other efforts to come back more towards the end. I'll now hand it off to Oscar. Brace yourselves for...
Let's make a car! My name's Oscar Beckler, and I love geometry nodes, and I wanted to make a car generator. I've daydreamed about this in the past, and I thought, what a great excuse to sit down and try it out. I have certain philosophies about how you should be doing geometry nodes project. I think geometry nodes is a tool building tool, and the question is always, what is in the GUI for these other people that might be using your file? And I think edit mode is the friendliest, easiest place to do things in Blender, and so I want to make sure that that's like a starting interface that people go in and they think, I can use that. And let's walk through this tree of how I go about making this. So I start with this initial axle creation, which is just instancing two curves. I construct this wheel profile. This is the top of the tire, the side of the tire, the indent for the hub. I can use this curve to mesh with UVs group that I rely on so heavily. This is where I get the 4 points of this. I construct this wheel placement by making that initial axle into a cylinder using the same radius value as the wheel. So this does a Boolean operation between this and the car body. So all of that is to find out the exact points with the exact normals, and then I instantiate the wheels on them. Of course, if you take it too far, it breaks. But I love this. It's just so fun to get these cartoony cars out the door. Anyways, this is the car generator. I hope you go play with it. And I hope you play Wheelie Big and Small.
Hi, I am Felix. I made the characters. This guy's name is Unicycle. I got the idea for his head off of plague masks. The name would be Mr. Donut, and the reason they look like this is because I don't know what donuts look like. I ate like 3 donuts earlier today, and yet I still don't know what they look like. His name is Linton, and I tried to make him human but still fit the game theme. I made him have 2 hairs. One is really tall and skinny, one is really big and small. Big and small. Really big and small.
Shading was a pretty important part of this project to get the Memphis style, and we did a bunch of research, or really Joey did all the work to figure out how to get a base shader that was actually what we wanted to use, finding the different ways to have a 2-tone cell shading, taking over a lighting function, first time really doing a deep and proper integration of shading inside of Godot. And then when it came to actually leveraging it, we had these nice controls where I could find, this is actually one of the models that we didn't have time to implement, sadly, into the game. But imagine we did, we would just bring over the base shader into each of these slots, and then we would edit the parameters. So like over here, expanding the parameters for here, I would change this to be a little bit lower, make it a bit more orange, find the right values, and then we actually could control what details of the shader we want to have. So maybe, for instance, I want to turn off these pink stars. I don't want to have that for this control, so I just turn the alpha down to 0. Maybe the dots, I want to change the nature of them a little bit so they're not as prevalent, you could say, or maybe a different color so that they kind of accentuate a certain way. and you could always like change the angle, the dots, and stuff kind of like that. So, and even like the nature of how the shadow looked as well could be relevant in some cases. Maybe do something a bit more like that, so it's a little more subtle. And basically just applied that to all of the models, cars, and everything. The shadows and all would really bring it all together.
Hello, my name is Isaac and I work on the character controller. First we get the speed of the character. Then we set some speed thresholds. This will allow us to have one controller on how we scale the character depending on the speed of the character. So it's better to have logarithmic scaling so you can see how the character scales. Now I will talk about the camera. So the way it's set up is that we have a pivot in the back of the character. It doesn't have any script, but we have here the spring arm, which follows the pivot. It doesn't follow it instantly. When we move to the right or the left, you see a small tilt, but then it just returns to normal when the camera reaches the pivot. Finally, I did some road segments. These road segments are the death doors. They will span randomly between -7 and 7 in the x-axis. Similarly, the road pieces we have 4 bumps, speed bumps, and then it will delete 3 out of the 4 road segments. So you can see here. I also worked on the checkpoint system. So you can see the checkpoint is just here. It will add 3 seconds. So we have a 7, 6, so we should have around 8. Right now I should have about 9, and so on. This was a game jam code, so I wish I had more time to make it more organized, but yeah, it works as intended.
My name is Patrick, and my own personal motivation for the Game Jam was to improve the Godot road generator plugin that I've been building with a separate team, which is how we actually landed on the Endless Runner theme. I did manage to fix a couple of bugs on the Godot 4 branch while going through this, which is great. We're able to use the plugin to easily make the road segments as well as the auto-generated road lanes to spawn cars into the scenes as we went along. Being a game jam, of course, time was tight at the end. Joy and I stayed up into the wee hours peer programming, slapping in different outstanding features like the squiggle sky and the varying trees along the side. We really wanted to get the graded bridge included to have at least one obstacle that required a minimum speed, but we just kind of had to cross our fingers and hope the collision physics worked okay enough, which it mostly did. In the end, pretty proud of the fact that for our first game jam as a group, and in fact the first game jam for everyone individually on the project other than myself, we managed to complete a stylized game on time and even got in the top 30th percentile out of the thousands of entries across the community ratings. So go ahead and check out the project on GitHub, which includes all the source assets, CC0, including even the geometry nodes car generator. And of course, you can play around with the web game on itch.io, where we have a now slightly more post-jam polished version up. All right, now I've got to Godot. Till next time.